Hey guys, welcome to Motoroids, the channel where you get the no-nonsense reviews of all the latest cars and motorcycles. My name is Amit and I've already given you a very detailed walk around of this beautiful machine that TVS have come up with, the Apache RTR 310, which is the Street Fighter naked version of the amazing RR310. And I've already told you all the specification related, feature related changes between the two motorcycles. But today I managed to ride it on the road and on the track, and there are some really amazing observations that I've had, and I would like to share all of them with you because that would be very important for you while you're making your buying decision. Now let's understand what are the differences in terms of the power delivery, the handling characteristics, technically speaking. And as I mentioned earlier also, the power here is more by 1.6 PS and the torque here is more by 1.2 Newton meters. All of that has definitely helped this motorcycle become quicker by about 0.3 seconds to 0 to 60 kilometers per hour. So this motorcycle does its 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds flat as compared to 3.1 seconds on the RR310. Why is that? There are many reasons why. A, because of the fact that the engine has more power, but it's not significant enough. The sprocketing here has seen a huge difference, and the teeth here are 46 as opposed to 42 on the RR310. So it's got a bigger sprocket at the rear, which means better initial acceleration, better mid-range. However, it suffers in the top end where the RR310 gives you 160 kilometers per hour true speed. The true speed here is 150 kilometers per hour, which translates to 160 kilometers on the speedo. Now, it's not just that. The engine has also been tweaked. The fueling here, the charge is different. The exhaust has been tweaked. There, the tailpipe is now slimmer. The glass wool thickness has been changed. So a lot of changes have been made to the engine, and a lot of it has been to increase that initial surge of power, and all of it is very, very evident. Now, talking specifically about power, there is a very marked difference in terms of the power delivery of this. So where the RR310 is a very linear engine and you experience a bit of a spike at 6000 RPM, here right from the word go you have a spike in power. You can really feel that this motorcycle is raring to go. It really has that sense of alacrity about it. And you'd see that after 3,500 RPM, this has a sense of urgency, which the RR310 is missing. It builds power manically in the mid-range, but the spike that the RR310 had after 6,000 RPM is somewhat missing. It also has a mild bump after 6,000, but after that, it's a flat journey because of the big sprocket. So that really is the big difference. It feels all the more intent. It's got a ride-by-wire throttle, so the throttle response is really sharp. And for all the hooligans amongst you who want to win the traffic signal GPs, this motorcycle is going to scorch everything else. The initial acceleration here is tremendous. So that is one of the biggest differences that you need to know about. Now, apart from that, as I mentioned earlier also, the seating position has changed, and the handlebar here is flat. It's not a clip-on, so you sit slightly more upright. And while it is upright, there is still some weight on your palms, so this is not an entirely upright position. The foot pegs are rear set, so it still is a rather sporty, street fighterish kind of a position. You sit in the bike, not on the bike. And the big difference here is, although the wheelbase is the same, the rake angle has not been changed, but because of the differential weight distribution, here you don't have as much mass up front as you have on the RR310, which means that the steering is lighter, nimbler, and by virtue of which this motorcycle is easier to flick around in the city. I would definitely say I rode it on the track as well, and the RR310 is a little bit more composed motorcycle on the track because of its more predictable power delivery. This one has this more urgent sense to put all the power down, but it has a few tricks up its sleeve, which I'm going to come to later. But talking specifically about the handling, the suspension here is obviously on the firmer side. This is a sporty machine, but it comes with tons and tons of adjustability, so that should not be a problem. The front is adjustable for preload as well as compression and rebound damping, and at the rear you have preload as well as rebound damping. Compression is not there, and this level of adjustability is not available on any other motorcycle save for the RR310 BTO. And the hardware here is similar more or less. However, this subframe that you see here, the aluminum subframe, is different. The seat height here is 20 mm lesser. The weight here is 4 kg less. So technically speaking, this is slightly more accessible to the shorter and lighter ones amongst you. So if you want a motorcycle which is more manageable, not just in terms of the weight, but in terms of the fairing and the plastics and the chances of them breaking, this motorcycle is more manageable. Now, that was about the differences with the RR310. Talking specifically about the gear speeds of this motorcycle, I compared it with the RR310. Now what I have here are the numbers that I achieved in the RR310 in every gear, and the shorter gearing on this motorcycle is very, very evident. As I compare the two motorcycles, the RR310 did its first gear top speed at 58 kilometers per hour. This one does it at 50 kilometers per hour. In the second gear, the RR310 went to 81. This one goes to 75. The RR310 crossed the ton mark. This one stops at 95 in third gear. In the fourth gear, the RR310 went all the way till 128. This one stops at 116. And in terms of top speed, I've already told you the top speed here is slightly lesser. So the difference in gearing is very, very evident. And in terms of tractability, the advantages are all too evident. And this motorcycle can trundle along from as low as 40 kilometers per hour in sixth gear. So it's a very tractable machine thanks to that big sprocket at the back. And in the fifth gear at 35 kilometers per hour. In the third gear, it can pull along from 25 kilometers per hour. In the fourth gear, it can pull along from 25 kilometers per hour, and in the third gear from 20 kilometers per hour. So the tractability here is really good. Nothing to complain about, and the advantages that this motorcycle has, thanks to the more power, more torque, a flatter torque curve, and more acceleration, lower and middle of the rev range, are all too evident. So it's a very different character, and if you were thinking that this motorcycle would be similar to the RR310, you'd be mistaken, because it feels very, very different in terms of its power delivery. Now, another important question that you guys would have is the cruising speeds, and I did a test there as well, and this motorcycle would do its ton mark in the sixth gear at about 7,000, a little less than 7,000 RPM, and it would do its 120 mark at about 8,000 RPM, and you still have 2,000 revs to go before the limiter cuts in. So you can understand that at 120, 130, this motorcycle is pretty comfortable. However, the vibes do cut in, and this motorcycle is quite vibey. The moment you take it above 6,500 RPM, there are vibrations to be felt on the seat, on the tank, on the foot peg, and on the handlebars as well. The RR310 had its own set of vibrations, and this motorcycle also has vibrations. It is not entirely vibe free, so you have to be mindful of that. Stability in a straight line is fantastic. It keeps its line, and it comes with a amazing suite of electronics which keeps it in control no matter what you're doing. I'll come to that in a bit. The braking, thanks to the pedal brakes up front and at the rear, is phenomenal. We love the braking on the RR310. This one is no different. It comes with a dual channel ABS with the supermoto mode, where you can switch the rear ABS off to ride it off the road. This is a little bit more ride friendly off the road than the RR310, although the ground clearance here is the same, 180 mm. Although the lack of fairing makes it a wee bit more suitable if you want to take it slightly off the road. In terms of throttle response, I would say that the fueling has made it a little too abrupt, and for someone who needs a little bit more predictable power delivery, this one is a little too abrupt, and unless you are a hooligan, you might find it a little too unnerving, especially when it's transitioning from 3,000 to 4,000 RPM. There is a distinct kick that this motorcycle has, and the power just comes in, and that may take a few people by surprise. I really believe that the power delivery on the RR310 is more predictable, more linear and smoother. This one is a little bit more aggressive, and for those of you who want it in a more predictable manner, this is not probably the way you would like it. Now, there are a few things that you would be interested in knowing, and the biggest of those is the new 6D IMU sensor that this motorcycle has. And 6D IMU sensor means that this motorcycle can have 6 different freedoms. Apart from the 3 axis, it can also have pitch, yaw, and lean, to understand the position of the motorcycle, its lean angle, its speed, etc. better, and based on that it can control the wheel speed and the speed, and cut the engine in, reduce the power, and help you be safer. Now, traction control has 2 different variations on this motorcycle. If you're going with the standard version, you'll get all the features of the linear traction control, which means that you'll get a linear ABS, you'll get a linear traction control, you'll get a linear cruise control. However, if you go with the Dynamic Pro variant, you will get the cornering ABS, wherein if you're going around a corner, you can use the ABS, and the motorcycle is not going to go wide. You'll also get cornering traction control. You'll basically get all the advantages of the 6D IMU sensor, which generally is not available in motorcycles of this class, and hats off to TVS for having introduced that tech here, and that's where this motorcycle really has the edge over the RR310 as well. And in terms of the rider safety net, if you're someone who would be riding a lot in the wet, you would be feeling much safer on this motorcycle. Now, purely from a handling perspective, I rode it on this track. This is not the Chennai racetrack, which I know like the back of my hand. I've ridden that many times. This one is about 2.5 kilometers, but it's a nice track, very predictable, very easy to learn. And I was able to learn the lines very quickly. And within a lap, I was very confident on this motorcycle. The Michelin Road 5 tires are fantastic, offer fantastic predictability. You can really rely on these tires while leaning down. And apart from that, the big difference that you feel is that while you leaned over, the kind of stability that you feel on the RR310 is a little less here, because the weight is not very front biased, so the front is slightly lighter and you can really turn it in more easily. But if you talk about stability while being in the middle of the corner, I think the RR310 gives you a little bit more confidence, being a more track honed machine, if you will. However, if you talk purely from a safety perspective, this motorcycle has the edge, since it has an edge in terms of its electronics. So that's about the tech and the differences that this motorcycle has. In terms of fuel efficiency, it's more or less where the RR310 was. If you really rip it, you're going to get about 20 kilometers to the liter. In day-to-day driving, you'll get about 30 to 32 kilometers to the liter. And if you're driving very gingerly on a highway, you'll get about 38 kilometers to the liter. 30 kilometers per liter is the median, and that's the average fuel efficiency you will generally get on this motorcycle. Now, that was about the performance, and I'm pretty sure that you wanted to know all about that. And now let me quickly reiterate all the things that this motorcycle has and which you would probably be interested in knowing. I've already mentioned all of that in my walk around, so if you want to have a closer look, you can go there and watch that 12-minute walk around where I have told you everything about all the features. This gets adjustable, dynamically adjustable LED lights with DRLs, so the faster you go, the brighter it is, and it's also got a sensor, so it comes on when the lights go off. The wheels are different, 110 section front, 150 section rear. These are lighter wheels, so they contribute to the lighter weight of the motorcycle. 11-liter tank. You have slipper and assist clutch with adjustable levers, so fantastic. You get 5 ride modes. You get rain, you get urban, where you have lesser power and torque, and you get sport and track modes, where you have the full power, and you have the supermoto mode, where you can turn the rear ABS off. Mirrors are very nice, very wide, give you a very good visibility off the road. The tank recesses are fantastically done. You get a lot of confidence. You can really squeeze the tank with your knees very well. If you're someone who's into sporty riding, the tank is very beautifully done. Coming towards the exhaust note has been completely changed. It feels more raspy, it feels a little bit more sporty, it's more hollower, it isn't as bassy, but it has a more sporty, more KTM-ish kind of a sound, if I may. One important thing that you probably would want to know is how comfortable it is. Generally, I would say that this motorcycle is very comfortable. However, this climate control seat that this motorcycle comes with has an element which is metal, and on longer journeys, if you have this feature installed, you do feel that the cushioning is affected, and you can feel the hardness of the metal underneath your posterior. So if you want outright comfort more than the cooling function, maybe you would do well to not go with the cooling function. The pillion seat is not very comfortable. It's meant only for short journeys. The grab rail is very stylish and has these crevices. And the tail lamp also looks fantastic, and under emergency braking it will start flashing so that the person behind you would know that there's an emergency up ahead. Now, just to let you know, you have the 2 kits. One is the dynamic kit, which gets you adjustable suspension and TPMS along with a brass coated chain for longevity. And then you have the dynamic pro kit, which gets you not just DSC, which is dynamic stability control, but it's cornering DSC, which means that you get cornering ABS, you get cornering traction control, cornering cruise control. All of that is cornering enabled and has a 6D IMU sensor. So those are the differences. Apart from that, you also get a Sepang blue color for 10,000 bucks extra, and the two kits that I just mentioned are available for 18,000 and 22,000 rupees respectively. Now this motorcycle also gets a bi-directional quick shifter which you can turn on or off, which is a fantastic feature. It works reasonably well. Although for some reason I found the gear shift on the RR310 slightly more slicker than this motorcycle. I don't know what that reason is. Another important thing that you do well to know is that the engine here has been further optimized for cooling, and the cooling jacket has more channels, so the cooling is a little bit more efficient than before. Now in terms of pricing, it's available in Arsenal Black for 2.43 lakh rupees ex-showroom, which is 30,000 rupees less than the RTR. Then you have the Arsenal Black with the quick shifter, and that's for 2.56 lakh rupees. So effectively that's 13,000 rupees more. And then this one, the Fury Yellow, is available for 2.64 lakh rupees. And in addition to all of that, on top of that, you can have the Dynamic kit for 18,000 and the Dynamic Pro kit for 22,000 rupees. And you can have the Sepang Blue race color with TVS Racing emblem for 10,000 rupees extra. Now, I think I have explained to you as to what the differences between the two motorcycles are, how it rides, how it handles, and all of that is fantastic. We can conclude this review by just having a look at the instrument console quickly. And here is how it looks. It's a 5-inch color TFT, and as you change the modes, the screen also changes. So as you can see, it keeps on changing. And you can choose from various different modes by pressing enter, getting into the menu, and then moving on to the ride modes and choosing one. Then you have the trip details. You have the 2 trips, the 3rd trip, day trip meter. Then in my vehicle you have service, performance record, and document. Preferences is where you would be interested. You can turn the dynamic headlamp on and off. DRLs can be automatic or off. You can turn the traction control on or off. You can turn the quick shifter on and off. Connectivity features are there. Now connectivity is important here because you have Bluetooth connectivity along with GoPro controls. So you can control your GoPro using the controls here after connecting it via Bluetooth. You have sound, you have turn button navigation, you have call, accept and reject. You have all of those features here. So it's a very comprehensive instrument console, and you can change the display setup. All of those features are here. Then you also have the climate control, seat control here. So you can cool or heat the seats by increasing or reducing the temperature here. Then you get all of these readouts here, which is the coolant temperature, range, and the RPM. And if you go to the home screen, you will get the tacho, the speedo, the gear, the engine temperature, odo, 0 to 60 kilometers per hour, top speed, and the tire pressure. So it's a very, very comprehensive instrument console, and you get a hazard, you get the controls for the cruise control, and all of the controls are very easy to understand. The horn sounds like this. And here you have the starter. So the switchgear is top quality, and overall I don't have any other motorcycle in my sight which can really compete with this motorcycle as an entire package. It looks fantastic. Say probably for the exhaust it could have been new. In the mid revs it's a monster. It really has an urgency which probably should not have been as much. It really accelerates very, very hard, can take you by surprise. More than that, the power comes in a bit of a spike, so that's its character. It's a load of fun. It's very predictable. The chassis, the suspension, everything is fantastic. The pricing is very good. However, of the two, if you are someone who's going to be riding around corners and on the track very often, then probably the RR310 is for you. But this motorcycle is more everyday. It's not a very pillion friendly motorcycle, but apart from that, it's a very, very practical motorcycle. You can ride for long distances. I would suggest, if you're going to be riding it for long distances, buy the one without the cooling function. But overall, right now, it really presents itself as a motorcycle which is offering a little too much for the money, in my humble opinion. And if you're someone who is crazy for electronics, then there is hardly any other motorcycle that can match this one. I really hope that I was able to cover this motorcycle in detail, because we get a very limited time here. We don't have our own videographers here, and we'll have to now push off from here. So I really hope that I was able to encapsulate this motorcycle as well as I could. If you still have any questions, put them down in the comment section below. I'll be very happy to answer them. Until next time then, this is your friend Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and ride safe.